107 FM, Eastside Radio.
Sometimes here on Eastside Radio, we're honoured to be able to bring you some extraordinarily talented musicians, and today I'm really happy to be able to do just that. Nicholas Ellis is a Canadian musician and conductor who will, later this week, conduct our own Sydney Symphony Orchestra in a couple of sensational concerts at the Sydney Opera House. And I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to talk to him, and he's on the phone right now. Nicholas Ellis, hi, welcome to Eastside Radio.
Hello, thank you very much.
Before we get on to the concert itself, Nicholas, just a little bit about yourself. Both your parents were musical. Your father played the cello and your mother the violin, and you're a pianist.
Yeah, that's correct.
Why didn't you follow your parents into the strings?
I don't know. They when I was a very young child, they encouraged me to start an instrument and ask what I wanted to do. And I have to say, for me, it was I wanted to start the piano. So they thought it was perfect, and they probably enjoyed it. Maybe they thought it was better that way, because at the beginning, when a kid learns a string instrument, there's maybe a couple painful months or maybe years at the very beginning.
Right, but it's certainly a lot less portable, isn't it? It's much easier to carry around a cello and a violin.
Yeah, at the same time, if you ask a cellist if it's easy to carry a cello in the plane or to go abroad, they might argue against that, actually.
Nicholas, you were born 33 years ago, and incidentally, happy birthday for last month.
Thank you.
You're a pianist now, but in fact, you're actually a conductor. Why the switch from being a professional pianist to a conductor?
Yeah, well, I actually switched to conducting during my studies. So I studied piano at the University of Montreal, and eventually I decided, after my piano degree, I had started to put together some projects with friends and musicians. I was interested into the orchestral repertoire and founded my own orchestra, the Orchestre de l'Agora in Montreal, which still exists and begins this year its 11th season. And so back then, when I was beginning that project and was seeking experiences to work with the instrument, the orchestra, so I ended up doing a master's in conducting.
And I wonder, whilst we're talking about a master's degree in conducting, what on earth do you study formally, academically, in a conducting degree? Because conducting is rather more of an art form, and it's all about emotion and interpretation rather than academic endeavour, isn't it?
It's actually very much academic at the beginning and still today, in the sense where it's you take courses of harmony, of counterpoint, of and now you analyze a bunch of you always analyze the music, the form, the modulations, the harmonic progression. So there's something very, I would say, very academic that at the beginning. And in North America, it's there are some conducting degrees at a fairly young age. In North America, you need to wait to the master's degree to begin a conducting degree. So you have to do all your curriculum in an instrument, your undergraduate, at least undergraduate diploma in an instrument before qualifying for a master's degree in conducting. But I will say that although we do learn, we do learn a lot in school, I would say that it's really with a real orchestra with human beings where you learn the most.
Yes.
Actually, for me, the best teacher for a conductor is the orchestra itself, because then you can really try things and see what works or doesn't. I think that observing other conductors in rehearsal is another great way to learn, and that's what I did a lot, observing other conductors. The actual technique of conducting is fairly simple. I mean, it's fairly simple to learn. It's like a basic patterns that that constitute the basis for every conductor who conducts. But then it's conducting is all about how well do you listen to the orchestra, how well do you feel the music inside you to show the musical gestures so that the orchestra knows what you want with you not having to say what you want. And so it's a very subtle and very mysterious art indeed, because every human being has a different body and different way of showing. I would say that everybody finds his or her own technique, although there is the conducting patterns at the basis of it are all the same, and so it's easy to learn very quickly. But then, in my experience, all the masterclass that I've personally done or witnessed or observed, where a conductor says you should move like this or like that, I've always find it not really effective because they impose their way of moving or of feeling the music.
Okay. Before we leave the university context, though, you were a bit of a student politician, weren't you? This is before you got your degree in 2012. I'm talking about.
Yeah. So in Quebec, when I was studying, there was a student strike because the government wanted to raise tuition fees in all the province of Quebec, and so all the students at university level and the cégep level, which is between high school and university. So we call them cégep or college. So it's before university. So all these students and university level students, many thousands and thousands of students decided to go on strike to protest in the street. And so the music faculty of the University of Montreal also voted in favor of the strike because they were against the tuition raise. So education is a right, it's not a privilege. And in that context, I did organize two very big concerts with my fellow colleagues, musicians and friends from school.
And fast forward just a little bit, you mentioned a moment ago the Orchestra de l'Angora.
Yes.
You're only 22 at that stage when you formed that. Now, that translates to gather together or gathering together, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Agora in the Greek antiquity is a space where people get together, they exchange. It's a place where we discuss art, philosophy, what kind of society do we want. So it's kind of this melting pot of people who want to share and think about their place in their community, society. And so that was kind of the inspiration, because the Orchestra de l'Agora has a social vocation, if we want. So we have we still, to this day, we still have a lot of community activities. We have
that's right. I want to get onto that in just a moment. But before we get onto that, melting pot is a great word, because it's been described as an ensemble now recognised on the Montreal scene for its artistically daring concerts and its social commitment.
So it's a special orchestra in the sense that it changes very much in size and also in style of repertoire from one concert to the other. So we have done, for instance, the Mahler's Third Symphony, or a few months ago we did Strauss' Alpine Symphony in a very big fundraiser for environmental organizations that work in Quebec. Mm-hmm. But in the same season, we also did Monteverdi opera, the Poppea's Coronation. So it's a beautiful opera by Monteverdi, where we were only 12 players on period instruments, and I was conducting from the harpsichord. And so and then you talked about the Big Bang. Well, that's all new music.
The orchestra itself does a lot more than just play music in major concert halls around the place. And you mentioned a moment ago that it utilises music as a tool for sustainable social change. Tell us just a little bit about its social orientation, its donation, for example, to Canadian environmental and humanitarian organisation.
Yeah, so we just organized last June our third edition of it's called the Earth's Gala, or the Gala de la Terre, where we put together a big event and a big concert, and we raise funds for environmental organizations. So we are able to give considerable amounts for, let's say, for a symphony orchestra.
I'd say very considerable amounts. You're talking more than $500,000.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It even goes beyond that too, doesn't it? Your musicians present concerts and workshops and so on to people, for example, in the Montreal detention centres and patients.
Yeah, exactly.
And so on.
So we have a monthly concert series where musicians from the orchestra, 2, 3, or 4 at a time, go to play for inmates, and so so we have that. We also have a beautiful project with teenagers who struggle with mental health issues.
How do you find that the inmates in a detention centre and the youth suffering from mental health issues, how do they respond to the sorts of music that you play?
Our experience was that, nobody's proud to be in prison, and many of the men for whom we play, they think they're in a vicious cycle where they're in there, and they'll maybe get out in a few months or a year or two, but they know that it won't last long, and they'll just come back, and it's kind of a cycle, a very special atmosphere, and the people there are listening very carefully.
And that's a wonderful story, and it's a beautiful use of music, which we often simply don't associate with that sort of environment. I'm speaking with Nicholas Ellis, who is a musician, and he will be conducting a Sydney Symphony Orchestra concert next week at the Sydney Opera House. And talking of which, that concert is on the 25th and 26th of October. And this is the first time I think you've conducted the Sydney Symphony Orchestra. Are you pleased to be with the Sydney Symphony Orchestra? Is one powerful orchestra. You're happy to be with the Sydney Symphony Orchestra?
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of the great orchestras of the planet, and great institution, and a great concert hall that everybody has seen at least a picture somewhere on the internet, and so it also has that mythical it kind of mythical association with it, and so I'm absolutely thrilled to make my debut in Australia and to meet the orchestra.
And your debut, in fact, is as a result of an unfortunate incident, Sir Andrew Davis.
Yes,
he died of leukemia in April of this year at 80 years of age. He was a long-time chief conductor of the Toronto Symphony Orchestra and
that's correct.
BBC Symphony Orchestra, and indeed the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra as well, I understand. The organist for the Academy of St Martin in the Fields, which is just institutional. Anyway, part of the concert will be a tribute to Sir Andrew, and that will be in the form of Bach's Passacaglia. Let's listen to a little bit of it now to start with.
Yeah.
That's a dramatic piece of music, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's one of the great pieces for organ by Bach, and it was. I stumbled when Sir Andrew Davis passed away, and a couple months later, I was asked to to conduct this concert in Sydney to replace him. I was eager to find a way to pay tribute to him because he's a great conductor, but also a great music director that has changed a lot in the institutions where he went. And I thought the best way was to find a way in music to pay tribute to him. And I stumbled upon his own arrangement of the Passacaglia in Fugue in C minor. And so, as you mentioned, he was himself an organist, and this arrangement is actually quite beautiful. And the parts did not exist on they did not exist anywhere. They were not edited, and so this, I believe, if I'm correct, the symphony asked Sir Andrew Davis' family if they would accept to send us the material of Sir Andrew Davis so that we could perform it. So it makes it in a certain way even more special to have access to this piece of music.
And talking of remarkable musicians, tell us about the Japanese pianist Nobuyuki Tsuji.
Yes, so I've heard and seen his some of his videos on YouTube and other platforms, and so Nobu is an incredible pianist, and of course, the first thing that everyone will notice is that he is blind. So it is exceptional, but I think that it goes beyond. I think it goes beyond that because he is truly a remarkable artist, both technically and musically, and he is known for having, as you can imagine, for someone who unfortunately cannot see, he listens a lot, and so he's very connected to the orchestra when he performs as a soloist. And so
he was asked at one stage how he kept in time without being able to see the conductor, and he responded that he listens to the conductor's breath, and he also senses what's happening around him. So he's a pretty talented fella. He began his musical career at 2 when he played Do Re Mi on a toy piano after hearing his mother hum the tune, and at 10. That's 10 years of age, he debuted with the Century Orchestra in Osaka. That's an extraordinary talent for a blind man. What I wonder is how on earth do you read a Braille score and keep both hands on your keyboard? That's beyond me. I don't get it. How do you do it?
I can't start to imagine. I can't even begin to. It's
well, his performance will be no doubt a highlight of the concert. Also included in the concert is Elgar's Enigma variations, number 9, the Nimrod. What is it about?
Yes.
What is it about that work that we're listening to now? What is it about this work that makes it so well known?
I mean, it's just it's one of the greatest piece of the repertoire. I think that it somehow we feel like we hear the authentic English. I want to say folk traditional songs. Somehow we feel we can hear that signature. But it's a set of variations, and so we feel sometimes like it's this beautiful color, but in a very Brahmsian texture, or a Brucknerian texture, or or sometimes even Mozartian, and so it's just an incredible piece of music. And of course, the title Enigma Variations is also has created much talk because each variation is dedicated to one of Elgar's friend,
yes.
and the enigma behind it is that the everlasting question is there is supposed to be a hidden theme which is not properly or obviously stated, and and the idea is to try to guess what theme it is. And at least during Elgar's lifetime, nobody was able to find out what it was. And today, well, there are many different theories, but I think that it goes behind that, I would say, intellectual game. It's in the sense that it's just music that touches the heart, and that shows, everything that the orchestra has to offer in terms of virtuosity and beauty.
Yeah, it's wonderful. We're looking forward to this concert, and just to remind our listeners, that concert is at the Sydney Opera House on Friday and Saturday. That's the 25th and the 26th of October at 7 p.m. And tickets are available, that is if there are any left, tickets are available at sydneysymphony.com. Nicholas Ellis, thank you so much for giving us your time today here on Eastside Radio. Welcome to Sydney, and enjoy your stint with the Sydney Symphony Orchestra.
Thank you very much.
.7 FM, Eastside Radio.